Hey, Coach Colin Castelli here with Shot Mechanics Basketball, and today I'm going to help you make your basketball team by giving you my tryout hacks. So I've evaluated a ton of tryouts in the past, and what I do know is that a lot of times what coaches expect and what players expect are vastly different. So for this video today, I wanted to go over a few really simple keys and tricks that you can use at your tryouts to look much more appealing to your coach and thus hopefully help you make the team. All right, so let's jump right into it. And the very first thing, and probably the most important, is communication. Now, a lot of athletes don't talk much on the court, right? Whether it's on defense or on offense. Communication a lot of times is really, really low, and coaches are always trying to get their athletes to communicate more. So if you can talk and communicate and kind of be that floor general out during the tryouts, that's going to stick out to your coach a ton and probably, kind of already bump you ahead of everybody else before you even show off any skills. All right, so communication can come in a bunch of different instances. It might be on offense where you're helping direct your team, letting your teammates know, exactly where they're supposed to be, when they're supposed to cut, when they're supposed to screen, all that sort of good stuff. It might be on defense where you're talking, letting your team know, what man you got, what man they got, who they're picking up in transition, because if you can do all that sort of stuff on offense and defense, you're gonna look really, really good to your coach, I promise. But you can go one step further with your communication and kind of translate it into all drills. So maybe your coach says, hey, we need to get 3 lines down on the baseline. You can pop out in front, point people around, say, hey, we got, we need 2 more in this line, we need 2 more in this line, and 1 more in the middle. And if you can kind of direct and traffic control, that's gonna look really, really good to your coach because he knows, number 1, you're a leader, number 2, you're not scared to communicate, and those are the type of players that they love to have on their team. So remember, the more you can communicate, the better it's going to be for you. Now, sometimes it can feel funky, and I know a lot of young athletes don't like being the center of attention during tryouts, but again, we really wanna make the team. That's your goal, right? So this is the very first thing you can do. So if you can communicate, it's gonna help you out a ton. All right, so the next tryout hack I've got for you is do not dribble too much. Coaches hate dribbling, and if you're out there and you're pounding the rock over and over again, trying to set your man up with like 13, 14 setup dribbles, they're automatically gonna cut you off the list before the tryouts even start. When in the half-court set, you need to be efficient with your dribbles. If you're taking more than 3 dribbles at any point in time, that's probably too much, and it's going to put you in a negative light in your coach's eyes. So make sure, number 1, you're really, really efficient with those dribbles, and number 2, you only use them when you need to and use them to attack the basket. Because remember, the coach doesn't care how sick your ankle-breaking crossover was if it took you a bunch of setup moves and kind of ruined the whole offense to get it there, right? That might look cool to you, and it might look cool to your friends and the other people at tryouts, but it's not going to do anything to help you make the team if you're wasting dribbles, slowing up the offense, and killing the ball movement. All right, so don't get sucked into the flash, limit your dribbles, and that's going to help you out a ton, because a lot of players don't know that, so they're going to be trying to shaking and baking out there, handling the rock, thinking that it looks really cool, and really their coach is just going to be going, striking him right off the list. All right, so the next hack I've got is don't be a hero. Now, a lot of players feel like they got to show exactly what they got in their game, so they try to shoot too much or they try to drive too much, and they really kind of try to put the team or the tryouts on their back and kind of show what they have. Now, the issue is coaches want players that are going to make the right basketball play, not always just score the ball, right? So if you're just constantly driving to the rack, taking bad shots, constantly jacking up shots from, deep that you probably shouldn't, they're going to see that right away and say, this is not somebody who's going to fit into my team system, and so I probably don't want them on the squad. I've seen a lot of athletes who have gone out and played this kind of hero ball in tryouts, and even though they might score a lot of buckets, and maybe they outscore a lot of people at the tryout, a lot of times these are the players that ended up getting cut because the coach knows that they're just not going to fit in the system. So make sure you're making the right basketball play, and that's going to definitely increase your chances of making the team because the coach is going to absolutely love it. All right, so the next tryout hack I have for you is that you have to play defense. Coaches love defense, and they hate players that are going to slack on the defensive end of the floor. Now, what's tough is a lot of young athletes think that the game's pretty much only about scoring, right? They go, hey, I went out there and I got buckets, and it doesn't matter if you scored 10 points if you let your opponent or the guy you're scoring guard 12 points, right? And this is something that coaches know and they pay a lot of attention to. So if you're slacking on defense, that's going to stick out like a sore thumb much more than your dominant offensive performance, even if you're playing well at that end. So on defense, never give up on the play. Always talk and make sure that you're in position, right? Don't be fouling a lot. Don't be playing out of your element. If you can't pick a guy up full court, don't pick him up full court. If you can, then you should, right? So you want to play within your game on defense and kind of play to your defensive game. I was never a player who could get up in somebody and, lock them down. So instead, I played really good team defense. I was always talking, taking charges, filling in lanes, all that sort of good stuff, right? So play to your defensive game and know what your limits are. And so don't be trying to get a bunch of steals, right, if that's not your game, because coaches that will stick out really, really easily, and they'll be able to see, hey, that guy's not playing to his abilities. scratching them off the list. All right, so the next one I've got sounds self-explanatory, but it's something that a ton of athletes screw up every single tryout, and that's that you have to listen to directions. Now, there's nothing that infuriates a coach more than when they explain something, they go over something a bunch of times, and then they try to run the drill or try to run whatever it is that they're doing, and somebody screws it up, right? Now, basketball is really hard because you have to use your brain and your body at the same time. But if you focus too much on your body and you don't listen to what your coach's instructions are, and if you're the guy who keeps screwing up the drills, you are not going to make the team. I've heard coaches call players like these drill killers, and the drill killer is the last athlete that they want on the team because they can't get anything accomplished, right? If you're not listening and not paying attention and thus not being able to perform the drill, it's gonna make it really hard for them to put you on the team. So what I highly suggest you do is when you're listening to your coach when he's breaking down a drill or play or whatever it is that they're doing at tryout, take mental notes. So as he's talking, keep running back through your brain what he talked about before. That way, once he gets to the end, you've kind of got these mental notes, you got a checklist, and you're ready to go. Right? Because if you can pay attention and listen, it's gonna put you above all those kids that don't. All right, so the next hack I've got for you is kind of a weird one that not very many people think about, but it makes a big difference, and that's that you have to stand out physically. Now, this sounds kind of funny, but to an older coach, a lot of times, you know, younger athletes kind of all look the same. Everybody's got the same trendy haircut, a lot of times everybody's got the same trendy shoes, and a lot of times everybody's kind of wearing the same clothes. And so kids kind of start to look exactly alike, and you can't really remember as a coach, you know, what player made what play. So you maybe got a couple buckets, and they might think that you were somebody else doing it at the time, or maybe they're not gonna remember it when they go to sit down to kind of cross off and make their team. So what I like to do is I like to try to have my athletes wear something that's a little bit different or change their appearance a little bit different so they stick out just a little bit. Now, this could be some funky or unique shorts or a shirt or bright colored socks or something like that, but you wanna make sure that you're just doing something fairly subtle and not something like over the top, right? You don't want to put on a clown wig and head to tryouts because they're not going to take you seriously. So you definitely have to be sure not to cross that line where you're starting to look like a goofball, because if they don't take you seriously, then that's almost just as bad as not sticking out at all. So think about what you're going to wear at tryouts, think about what other people are going to wear at tryouts, and try to find a way that you're going to stick out just a little bit, so that way the coaches are going to be able to mentally remember what you've done at the tryout. Right? So an example I have is I was doing a tryout probably, it was about 3 years ago, and there was a player who came and he was wearing shorts that were pretty short. Like, they weren't like crazy short, like they didn't look terrible necessarily, but his shorts were maybe about 2 to 3 inches shorter than everybody else's on the court, and that stuck out for some reason. He became the kid with the short shorts. And what I found myself doing as a coach is I would watch him a lot more, and I could remember his plays and the things that he did a lot more than the other kids that all kind of looked the same. So that's just kind of a quick little example. So you want to do something like that. So if you can stand out, it's gonna help you out a ton. All right, and so those are my tryout hacks. If this video helped you out, do me a huge favor, hit that like button, and then head to the comment section down below and let me know what sort of video you wanna see next. This is a channel run for the people, by the people, and I run pretty much everything I've requested, so leave it down below and hopefully I get to it. And if you're new to shot mechanics, you're definitely gonna wanna do 2 things. Number 1, hit that subscription button down below, because we put out a bunch of videos every week, and they're all gonna get you better, I guarantee it. The second thing you're gonna wanna do is click the link down below and get a free copy of my #1 scoring workout. This scoring workout is probably gonna change the way you think about training, and it's probably gonna increase your scoring average the very first time you use it. So I highly recommend you check that out. And you can get a work in before your tryouts start. All right, again, I'm Coach Colin Castell with Shot Mechanics Basketball. Thanks for watching, and until next time, splash on.